All right, so the Amber Guyger trial, the officer that killed Botham Jean in his own apartment, things are coming out that we know now that we didn't before. It's interesting that right after Amber Guyger murdered Botham Jean, we knew instantly that he had marijuana in his system. We, to date, are now only finding things out because the trial is taking place. We know that he was eating ice cream in his underwear. We know that he was smoking weed. We know that she killed him while he was doing those things. Now, I said before, I don't understand how a white woman who was a trained police officer does not know the difference between her apartment and a black dude from the West Indies. The smell of weed and oxtail should have let you know that wasn't your house. We now know that you weren't just exhausted, that you were sexting, that you were planning to meet another officer. We now know that once you shot Botham Jean, you called other policemen. You called other policemen and said, I effed up. You didn't call an ambulance. You didn't pray. You didn't shout out, oh my God, what have I done? None of those things. You were worried about you. You were already trying to tap into the deeply held fear that black people are to be feared, and there's no, you can tap into that fear and get away with almost anything. Surely they're dangerous. They're eating ice cream in their underwear like people do in their homes all the time. We constantly ask for justice. We never specify what justice would look like. She's getting the advantage of having a uniform on. She wasn't on duty. She wasn't on call. There was nothing official about her breaking into that apartment. We ask for justice constantly. We ask for justice to be meted out all the time. We need to specify what that looks like. What would justice look like in this particular case? I don't know, or I have reason to believe that she did this on purpose, that it was an assassination, but I do know that that man was at home in his underwear eating ice cream when his life was taken away from him. And the person that took that life didn't do everything she could to preserve it. After she made that mistake, she was more concerned about him than her. As he lay there bleeding, she was worrying about concocting a story that people would buy. She was worried about tapping into the narrative that black people are to be feared, that you can do anything to them because they're so scary, whether they're eating ice cream, whether they're in their underwear, whether they're in their own home. If this is allowed to stand, it will send a dangerous message that no matter what we are doing or not doing, you can do whatever you want to us. It would send a narrative that you are always right and that there's nothing that we can do to stop you from murdering us, that you be brought to account for. I don't know what was in her mind, but I know what was in his chest, a bullet. I know what was in his mind, dying. I'm at home. I'm eating ice cream. What did I do? All the things you think about that would run through your mind if something so devastating happened to you. We need to decide what justice looks like. Not just to cry out for it, not to demand it, not to march for it, to find out what it looks like. And it's a simple question. What would it look like if I broke into your home while you were in the safety of your own abode, while you were eating ice cream, while you were in your underwear, while you were smoking a little weed in your own home, I broke in and violently took your life? What would that look like? What would it look like if somebody broke into your home and murdered you for absolutely no reason at all? What would it look like if it were me? What would it look like if it were you? What would it look like if anybody other than someone wearing a uniform, whether they were off duty or not? Honestly, what would it look like if we had done everything she did? What would justice look like? And whatever you think it looks like for me, it should look like for her. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the DL.